Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. Could you please introduce yourself?
My name's James Wyndham, and I am glad to be here chatting about the pandemic and how it's affected me as a musician. And yeah, like I said, glad to be here and let's chat.
The COVID-19 pandemic disrupted almost all aspects of life, and the music industry was hit particularly hard. As a musician, how did the initial news of the pandemic and lockdowns affect you?
It was very odd when it hit. No one really knew. At first, it was like we only thought it was going to be a couple weeks, you know? Um, no one really had this anticipation of prolonged shutdowns and such. I remember a lot of the aspects of being a musician during the shutdown with the pandemic was everyone was kind of inquiring on when things were going to open back up. Is it going to be, if it would happen in March, was it going to be summer? And then summer would come and go, and it would be like, all right, we're pushing tours to the fall, and then the fall came and went, and yeah, it just really forced a lot of people. I was living in Nashville at the time, and it forced a lot of people to kind of move back home and do other things in the meantime or hang it up altogether. It was just a very trying time for musicians. There wasn't that gig money out there to kind of get you through the week. If you were doing any sort of touring, it was canceled. Um, it allowed for some innovation for sure, as far as like people live streaming and doing live concerts and working off tips through the internet. And yeah, and just trying different things, different ways to make it a living in music, whether that's writing music or trying a new genre. I know for me, I was primarily a bass player in rock and country, and it kind of forced me to put my eggs more in the songwriting basket. Um, I definitely went the more songwriting route, and yeah, songwriting and scoring music for film and TV. That was kind of what I moved into, which I really enjoy right now. So um, it was kind of a good and bad situation. I think it progressed a few people through to like figure out their place in the industry and how to write efficiently and record efficiently. And then also it maybe for people who were kind of hanging around the industry that needed to hang it up, it kind of gave them that little push that they needed to do so. So yeah, I could see a good and bad scenario there.
So, in the face of these challenges, how did you adapt?
Well, for me, it was definitely more. Well, for me, I was more of a player. So I wasn't necessarily writing as much when that happened. So for me, it was a very big pivot where I started trying getting in writing rooms and on writing sessions a little more. And that's really how I changed kind of my perspective and then the trajectory of my career. Um, and it kind of went twofold. It kind of went hand. It, it kind of went twofold and kind of hand in hand as I was getting older. I was around 35 at the time, and it's just kind of a natural progression to kind of move into more songwriting, composing for me. It's always something I wanted to do more of, but I've always leaned on bass playing being my primary, uh, music making, money making tool. So the pandemic hit, all the gigs dried up, and like I said, I was in Nashville at the time. I moved to Nashville uh, during the pandemic. I think it was the summer of 2020, around July, August. And then my plan was I had a remote job at the time, and my plan was to work that job until everything opened up, and I was going to jump in and start playing music. I was going to be set up in a good spot. I didn't have to find a job. I had a good paying job at the time. And yeah, it just never, we moved there and it just, took forever for things to kind of start moving. I mean, I think it was, summer of 2021 before things started kind of rolling again. So it was still another year. But yeah, during that time, it was just more like, um, I mean, I played a few like live streaming shows and I went to a few, you know, writes and writers rounds and stuff, but it was very, very weird. Like some places would be shut down altogether. Some places would have some stuff going on. It would just depend on each spot. Obviously, we were in Tennessee, so I think the laws were a little more lax, even though we were in Nashville. But yeah, just kind of, like I said, pushed me to write more, which is definitely not a bad thing.
What changes did you make to continue creating and sharing your music? Have these changes affected the content of your music as well?
It definitely changed what I was focusing on. I was practicing a lot. I was shooting a lot of video of me playing and sharing it on social. And it kind of went from that to, you know, sharing music that I wrote, putting stuff up on Spotify, pushing that a good bit, and just really trying to keep my wheels turning as much as possible in music. And it took the importance off of playing bass a good bit. Um, Before I was like spending a lot of time playing and networking and finding gigs and stuff, and it just you know, all that changed when when the pandemic hit and just kind of shut everything down, canceled all the shows. So I'd say my content changed very much, especially in the early days. The early days, we didn't understand how serious or not serious it was, or who was at risk, and it was very much like focused on family and stuff at that point. When are we going to get to see our family again? Stuff like that. So yeah, definitely put things in perspective. Um, it forced everybody to hit pause, and just wasn't, career aspirations or music aspirations just wasn't that important anymore.
Your experiences seem to be a testament to the resilience and adaptability of artists. Looking towards the future, how do you think these changes will impact your career and the music industry in general?
I think it's going to force artists to have a backup plan as far as not necessarily other things to do for work, but just they're going to need a plan for how to make money if touring doesn't happen. There's a number of things that could happen that could wipe out touring and playing shows, and I think artists are going to have a plan for that. They're going to have a well-rounded, committed audience to kind of add to their streams and their numbers. That's going to buy their records or at least listen and stream their records. I think they're going to look at things like YouTube and just make sure they have content on there that's engaging, where they can bring in revenue from that. So it's just setting up other revenue streams that are going to take care of them when touring falls through, when it happens again. I'm sure something will happen where we're unable to do the same thing. And then for me, the pandemic, I mean, it was an odd time. Me and my wife found out we were going to have our first kid during the pandemic, and all this stuff kind of led to music taking a back seat for me anyway. And then our first child was born in June of 2021. So everything just kind of got put on the back burner at that point. I've focused on, being a dad and such. I mean, I still play, I still write music, but I'm definitely more focused on, the family and not traveling as much. So for me, it was like it shook up my whole world. The pandemic, and then having my first son, it really changed things for me and solidified things like, hey, this is a natural progression out of this stage of life. You know, I don't necessarily chase it as much anymore. I have some good solid gigs that I continue to play, and I play with my friends and have a good time, and that's kind of the gist for me. I think now I would much rather write music for film, should that opportunity present itself. And then for my day job, I'm pretty much a senior graphic designer at a music company, a music technology company. So it all kind of lines up for me where I'm still in that world. So yeah, the pandemic affected everyone. It affected everyone in different ways. For me, it was felt like this push to kind of move forward and progress when I was stuck in this place where I kind of wanted to be as a musician, but getting older and things changing, pandemic freezing everything, and you just realizing, hey, this could all be gone in a moment. And, having my family, my son coming to the world, and it just felt more important at that time. And it's just kind of always been that way since. You kind of remember the things that you were feeling in the thick of the pandemic, and those truths that were there. So
That's a brilliant perspective. It shows how challenges can lead to innovation and growth. Do you have any advice for other musicians who might be struggling to adapt?
I think my biggest advice to musicians coming up now is to find your own voice, would be number one. Figure out your own avenue, your own way, and be careful who you hitch your wagon to. Um, I don't want to say it, no one can really do it alone, but make sure you're doing it on your terms, whatever that may be. And then two, I think the biggest thing I would tell musicians moving forward is be intentional about where you want to be. If you want to, if you want to be a player that's playing in huge bands, you need to be in LA and Nashville, and you need to give it all you got. I would say do all your networking in person if you can, because social media and online is just oversaturated now. There's just no way you're going to break through. It's just not. It's been stagnant for some time now. That's not what it's for anymore. It's for people promoting and brands promoting that already have massive followings. So decide what you're going to do it on your own terms, be intentional about it, and do all your networking in person if that's what you want to do. So yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Keep making great things. Thanks.